The modern world no longer trades in truth. It trades in appearance. Every click, every brand, every belief is a transaction, not of substance, but of perception. And those who master this invisible currency rise effortlessly above those who cling to honesty as if it were armor. Machiavelli would have understood this perfectly. He lived in a time when kings ruled by blood, but survived by image. When alliances were built not on loyalty, but on reputation, the illusion of trust. And if he were alive today, he wouldn't be in politics. He'd be building a fortune, not through invention or labor, but through optics, the silent empire of perception. Because perception in the 21st century is the new gold. It doesn't need vaults. It lives in minds. It isn't earned. It's engineered. And once it's built, it multiplies without effort. We live in a marketplace of faces, a world where attention is value and visibility is survival, where the algorithm decides who matters and the image you project becomes the only truth that counts. Every corporation, every influencer, every politician all play the same quiet game Machiavelli once described, the art of seeming. He wrote that it is better to appear virtuous than to be virtuous, not because deception is noble, but because perception governs reality. The world rewards what it can see, not what it cannot measure. In his time, that meant reputation among nobles. In ours, it means data, clicks, followers, impressions. The same principle, digitized. The tragedy is that people still believe authenticity is power. They mistake raw honesty for strength, forgetting that visibility without control is exposure. They confess, they overshare, they reveal, hoping transparency will earn trust. But Machiavelli would shake his head and whisper, honesty is a luxury for those who already control the narrative. The powerful don't reveal themselves. They reveal versions of themselves. They understand that perception is not a reflection, it's a projection. The image precedes the truth. And once belief takes root, truth becomes optional. Look around. A CEO speaks of equality while his company exploits. A brand markets empathy while mining attention. A politician tweets humility while orchestrating chaos. The hypocrisy isn't a flaw, it's a feature. It's the mechanism by which control survives scrutiny. The appearance of virtue protects the pursuit of power. And those who can hold both, virtue and vice, mask and motive, win in every era. To the naive, this feels evil. To the Machiavellian, it's efficiency. Because in a world of infinite information, authenticity is noise. It dilutes influence. But image, distilled, deliberate, directed, cuts through the chaos. That's why the first rule of modern power is not truth, but design. Perception is the only product that never depreciates. It's the reason some are worshipped without merit, and others, brilliant and honest, remain invisible. Because the world doesn't see competence, it sees charisma. It doesn't hear logic, it hears confidence. The illusion of mastery creates more results than mastery itself. Machiavelli would tell you, men judge more by the eye than by the hand. And he'd be right. The modern eye is a god. It blesses and curses with a glance. A single post, a single image, a single well-timed appearance can shift destiny. Those who understand this play with silence and exposure like an artist with light and shadow. They don't show everything. They reveal what invites curiosity, what builds myth. Because mystery is the oxygen of influence. To appear is to exist. To over-appear is to decay. And the masses, desperate to be seen, burn their own mystery for attention, never realizing that invisibility is the true luxury of kings. Machiavelli would have thrived here. He'd own the platforms, not post on them. He'd design movements without leading them. He'd understand that influence today doesn't belong to the loud, but to the architect of trends, the unseen curator of what others crave. That's the new aristocracy. The ones who build the mirrors everyone else performs inside. The power of perception isn't in spectacle, it's in precision, the choice of what to reveal, when, and how much. It's the silence between two public gestures that builds myth. It's the restraint that makes presence feel inevitable. Most people chase visibility because they fear irrelevance, but those who master perception understand that scarcity is attention's oldest algorithm. That's why Machiavellian power doesn't shout, it whispers. It lets others project meaning into the silence, because what the mind fills in, it believes more deeply. And that's how fortunes are built now, not through innovation or inheritance, but through narrative control. The image becomes the infrastructure of wealth, and wealth, in turn, reinforces the image, a cycle so seamless that no one remembers which came first. To the untrained, this looks like luck. To the strategist, it's design. Because in the modern empire, truth has no market share, only perception does. And perception, once mastered, can turn shadows into gold. That's the first lesson of the game. Don't show the truth, shape it. Because in a world built on appearances, the one who understands the illusion first owns it. Every era has its battlefield. Once it was land, then it was industry. Now, it's attention. And in the age of attention, perception is both weapon and shield. We no longer fight with armies, we fight with optics, with headlines, with posts, with images designed to seduce belief. Every powerful person, from billionaire to influencer, now commands a stage. And on that stage, performance has replaced leadership, not because truth died, but because truth stopped being profitable. Machiavelli understood this centuries ago. He watched princes rise and fall not by virtue, but by reputation. He saw that the ability to appear just was more valuable than being just, because the crowd does not see character, it sees theater. And the first rule of theater is this: the audience must never see the script. Today, the same principle has evolved, polished, digitized, automated. Every empire now runs on public image management. Presidents pose like prophets. CEOs brand themselves as messiahs. Even rebellion itself is packaged for the feed, a choreography of outrage performed for metrics. It's not deception, it's design. The modern Machiavelli doesn't lie, he curates. He knows that the world is not divided between truth and falsehood, but between the seen and the unseen. To appear ethical, you need only perform emotion convincingly. To appear wise, you need only speak with rhythm and restraint. To appear powerful, you must master the one art the masses never will, the art of selective revelation. Because mystery is the architecture of admiration. People don't worship what they understand. They worship what they can't quite explain. The strategist knows this instinctively. He crafts his silence as carefully as his speech. He gives enough to be followed, never enough to be known. Machiavelli would have loved social media, not as a performer, but as an observer. He would watch how people expose their vulnerabilities in pursuit of visibility, and how systems reward them for it. He'd see it as the perfect machine, an empire where everyone is both actor and audience, where self-expression feeds the very hierarchy it claims to resist. Because attention is currency, and confession is collateral. Every emotion you share can be sold. Every belief you defend can be weaponized, and while you perform your authenticity, someone else is monetizing the stage you stand on. The powerful understand this. They treat visibility as strategy, not validation. They appear only when the narrative demands their presence. They vanish when mystery profits more than message. Their public life is a product, their private life a fortress. Machiavelli would say they have mastered la virtù, not virtue in the moral sense, but the power of adaptability. He defined it as the skill to bend circumstances into opportunity, to shape chaos into design. And in the theater of power, adaptability is everything. To survive in this age, you must learn to stage yourself, not as deception, but as protection. Because the world no longer judges by essence, only by optics. If you appear confident, you are competent. If you appear in demand, you are valuable. If you appear scarce, you are irreplaceable. The appearance creates the perception. The perception creates the belief. And belief, that is the foundation of fortune. This is why the richest men rarely explain. They let their silence accumulate value. They understand the principle that governs every market. Scarcity commands attention. Abundance dilutes it. The crowd that overshares for relevance only reveals its dependence. A Machiavellian doesn't seek validation. He designs context. He doesn't post to express, he posts to position. Every gesture, every phrase, every absence is calculated. He plays the long game, where visibility is a tool, not a drug. The weak chase applause, the powerful engineer narrative, and the narrative, once engineered, becomes infrastructure. It defines how others interpret your every move. That's the true theater of power. You don't control people, you control how people see. And once you shape perception, you don't need to win every argument. You just need to define the frame in which arguments occur. That's how modern influence works. You don't force belief, you stage it. You don't silence opposition, you flood it with distraction. You don't hide ambition, you dress it in virtue. Machiavelli once wrote, "Men in general judge more by the eye than by the hand, because everyone can see, but few can feel." He would look at today's world and smile, because the spectacle has replaced the sword. The crown is no longer inherited, it's engineered. And fortune belongs not to those who deserve it, but to those who design the illusion that they do. We live in an empire of symbols, and those who control symbols control behavior. Because the modern man no longer needs truth to believe, he needs an aesthetic. He doesn't follow reason, he follows resonance. The performance feels true, and feeling is now fact. That's why Machiavelli would thrive here. He wouldn't fight for truth, he'd design it. He wouldn't chase fame, he'd architect the meaning of it. And while others drown in performance, he'd build the stage, sell the tickets, and own the theater itself. That's the second law of appearance. Control the stage, not the script. Because when you own the theater, it doesn't matter who the actors are. The applause will always be yours. Applause feels like oxygen. It arrives in waves and small bursts of recognition, digital or human, each one feeding the illusion that we exist. In the age of appearances, it's not just pleasure, it's survival. The human mind was never built for this much reflection. It evolved to be seen by a few dozen eyes, not millions. But now every glance, every scroll, every like rewires the brain to equate visibility with safety. And in that quiet exchange, the oldest instinct, the need to belong, becomes the newest form of control. Machiavelli would marvel at how easily the masses police themselves today. He spent his life advising princes to manage perception through fear and reward. But he could never have imagined a world where people willingly enslave themselves to attention, where applause has become the currency of worth and silence feels like death. That is the psychology of modern obedience. We no longer bow to kings, we bow to visibility. We no longer fear punishment, we fear obscurity. The crowd doesn't seek truth, it seeks reflection. It looks not for meaning, but for mirrors that flatter its biases. And the platforms that feed it, the digital empires of our time, have perfected Machiavelli's oldest advice. If you must control men, control what they love. They made attention the drug and applause the syringe. The dopamine hit that once rewarded survival now rewards performance. You smile not because you're happy, but because the algorithm will notice. You speak not to express, but to be seen expressing. And you measure yourself not by depth, but by reach. The tragedy isn't that we perform. It's that we believe the performance. The applause becomes identity. The audience becomes the conscience. And slowly invisibility, once freedom, becomes unthinkable. This is where Machiavelli would step in. He'd say, learn the psychology, but don't fall into it. He'd remind you that applause is leverage, not purpose. That its value lies not in receiving it, but in directing it, because applause, like any currency, is inflationary. The more you chase it, the less it's worth. The crowd's love is fickle, their outrage even cheaper. They'll worship you for a moment and devour you the next, not because they hate you, but because consumption is how they feel alive. The Machiavellian knows this rhythm. He feeds the crowd just enough to stay relevant, but never enough to be devoured. He appears vulnerable, but never exposed. He gives emotion in doses, never in surrender. Because the key to influence isn't in being loved, it's in being necessary. To the strategist, applause is a metric, a signal, not a destination. It tells him where emotion flows, not where truth lives. He reads praise and outrage with equal detachment, because both are instruments of perception, and perception is the only market worth mastering. Look at every empire of fame today. They don't sell products and they sell identity. They don't sell ideas, they sell affirmation. They understand that people don't want transformation, they want validation wrapped as revelation. That's why appearance has replaced authenticity, because authenticity is fragile, but appearance can be scaled, optimized, replicated. The authentic self is human, the strategic self is immortal. This is not cynicism, it's anatomy, the anatomy of attention. Once you understand that human emotion can be measured, you realize it can also be directed. And whoever directs emotion, directs society. Applause is not random, it's engineered. The rhythm of applause follows the rhythm of manipulation. Every system of power, and from religion to advertising, uses the same formula. Create a standard of virtue, reward those who display it, shame those who resist it. Repeat until obedience feels like pride. The modern version is subtler, cleaner, prettier. Likes instead of lashes, metrics instead of morality. And the result is the same. People chasing approval from systems designed to feed on their chase. Machiavelli would call this the new monarchy of mirrors, a world where everyone performs for each other, while a silent few control the stage. The Machiavellian mind, however, plays differently. He doesn't reject applause, and he redefines it. He understands that the most powerful applause is silent. It's the respect of the unseen, the trust of the influential, the kind of validation that doesn't echo publicly, but moves privately. He would tell you to aim for credibility, not fame. To build reputation like a fortress, strong, quiet, and impenetrable. To let others chase recognition while you chase relevance. Because recognition fades, but relevance compounds. The masses seek love. The Machiavellian seeks gravity. He doesn't attract through noise. He attracts through inevitability. His presence feels earned, not demanded. His absence feels deliberate, not forgotten. That's the essence of power in the psychology of applause. When you no longer need the crowd's approval to act, you've already risen above it. And when you can move the crowd without being seen, you've begun to master it. Machiavelli would tell you, the applause of men is wind. Learn to sail it, not to live on it. Because in this world of endless mirrors, the one who can walk past his reflection without needing to stop and admire it is the only one truly free. The greatest power in the modern world is not held by those who create reality, but by those who curate it. Reality, after all, is elastic. It bends toward those who can define what others believe. And Machiavelli, reborn in our age, would not seek to tell truth. He would seek to control perception of truth. He would build an empire not from factories or offices, but from narrative architecture. A silent kingdom of stories, images, and emotions, each designed to feed the illusion of inevitability. Because the strongest illusion is not falsehood, it's order. People will tolerate injustice before they tolerate uncertainty, and whoever offers stability, even in deceit, commands loyalty. The art of illusion is not deception, it's orchestration. The illusionist doesn't lie. He simply chooses which part of the truth the light will touch. He understands that perception is a stage, and darkness, not light, defines its atmosphere. To build a modern fortune, Machiavelli would first master narrative asymmetry, the ability to control how much others know, when they know it, and how they feel about it. He'd release fragments, not facts, rumors, not reports. He'd design scarcity, not in product but in information, because scarcity builds myth, and myth is the currency of influence. Most people reveal too much. They believe transparency builds trust. But transparency to the Machiavellian is exposure. It removes leverage. It collapses mystery. And mystery in power is insulation. He'd create layers of visibility. The public persona, polished and predictable. The private network, invisible and absolute. He'd let people see him, but never reach him. He'd let them feel intimacy without access. Because access breeds familiarity, and familiarity kills reverence. Look at the world's most powerful figures. They are not the loudest, but the best concealed. You rarely see them explain, justify, or argue. Their silence becomes mythology. Their absence becomes a lure. Because when a man refuses to compete for attention, the crowd begins to assume he already has it. Machiavelli would weaponize that instinct. He'd create limited visibility around his fortune, his ideas, his alliances. He'd make his moves seem accidental, his victories inevitable. He'd understand that timing is not luck, it's choreography. And every appearance would feel like prophecy fulfilled. That's controlled illusion. Appearances so carefully placed that they feel like fate. This is how empires are built now, not from conquest, but from curation. A billionaire doesn't sell a product. He sells belief in his inevitability. A leader doesn't need to prove competence. He needs to perform certainty. People don't follow strength. They follow the appearance of unshakable confidence. That's why Machiavelli would invest not in influence, but in aura. Aura cannot be replicated. It's born from restraint, from understanding that less exposure increases impact. Every word becomes deliberate, every silence intentional, every gesture calibrated to echo in the minds of others long after it's gone. The illusionist's secret is empathy, not kindness but precision. He studies emotion like a sculptor studies light. He knows how to reflect it, distort it, amplify it. He knows that humans crave beauty more than truth, certainty more than accuracy, and meaning more than fact. And so he gives them all three, crafted, polished, profitable. Controlled illusion isn't fraud, it's selective visibility. It's the ability to stay almost real, real enough to be trusted, unreal enough to be untouchable. It's why the most powerful never reveal their full selves. The less they explain, the more they command imagination. That's the paradox of modern wealth. The less the world knows about you, the more it assumes you know. And the more you appear to have, the more others invest in your illusion. Every modern Machiavellian understands that optics generate capital. Markets rise on confidence, not accuracy. Movements thrive on symbolism, not logic. Love, politics, religion, finance, all are sustained by faith in what cannot be seen. And whoever engineers that faith owns the system. The powerful curate perception, like art collectors, curate masterpieces. Each frame, a decision. Each light, a message. Each absence, a strategy. They never fight the narrative. They redesign it. They never deny the lie. They make the lie feel beautiful. And beauty in power is immunity. The art of illusion requires endurance. You must resist the urge to correct misunderstanding. You must let others define your image while you define their limits. Because contradiction creates depth, and depth creates devotion. People will forgive your flaws if you make them fascinating. Machiavelli would whisper, never prove, never protest, only project. He'd understand that in an economy of attention, reputation is not what you are. It's what others believe you to be consistently, predictably, profitably. He wouldn't chase transparency. He'd design opacity. He'd understand that in the game of appearances, truth is optional, but elegance is mandatory. Because in a world addicted to exposure, mystery is the last luxury left. That's the fourth law of fortune: own perception, or be owned by it. Because wealth isn't built from what's real, it's built from what others believe is real. And when you learn to shape belief, you no longer need to persuade. The world persuades itself for you. There comes a point in every strategist's life when power no longer needs to announce itself, when presence becomes unnecessary, when influence exists everywhere, yet leaves no trace. That's the summit Machiavelli would climb today. Not the palace, not the podium, not the profile, but the silence above them. The empire of the unseen. Because in a world obsessed with being noticed, the rarest currency is disappearance. To vanish while still directing motion. To shape reality without stepping into its spotlight. That is mastery. The powerful have always known this. Kings ruled through symbols. Priests ruled through belief. Today, the new sovereigns rule through data, the modern scripture of perception. But the principle remains unchanged. Control the unseen, and the visible obeys. The empire of the unseen isn't built from concrete or code. It's built from systems that move automatically, from trust that compounds while you sleep, from narratives that work on your behalf long after you stop speaking. That's why the loudest often fall first. They mistake exposure for security. They reveal their hand, their vision, their limits. They invite envy before stability. The unseen, however, endures, because you cannot attack what you cannot define. Machiavelli would have no brand. He would have infrastructure. He'd build invisible funnels of loyalty, networks that operate beneath awareness, reputations that function as algorithms of belief. His fortune wouldn't live in banks. It would live in systems, in stories, in the minds of those who act on his behalf without knowing it. He would not chase attention. He would direct it. He would never fight for the spotlight. He'd engineer it to fall where it benefits him most. He'd appear less often, but when he did, his timing would feel divine. And divine timing, that's just perfect invisibility meeting perfect control. Invisibility is not absence, it's precision. It's knowing that when you can no longer be read, you can no longer be predicted. And when you can no longer be predicted, you can no longer be controlled. That's what makes the unseen untouchable. They operate beyond morality, beyond visibility, beyond expectation. Their presence is myth, their influence omnipresent. They live through institutions, ideologies, and infrastructures that outlast flesh. They are the quiet authors of the age, and their signatures are written in the behaviors of billions. To build such an empire, you must think beyond survival, beyond profit, beyond applause. You must learn to shape reality indirectly, to seed ideas like viruses, concepts that replicate, evolve, and return multiplied. Because the unseen doesn't argue, it infects. That's why Machiavelli would never run a company. He'd create the ecosystem companies depend on. He'd never compete in markets. He'd design the market's psychology. He'd never sell the product. He'd own the story behind the product. He would understand that true wealth isn't accumulation, it's autonomy. The ability to act without dependence, to design without permission, to exist without exposure. And autonomy requires architecture. The unseen build webs, not ladders. Their success isn't a climb, it's an expansion. Every relationship is a node, every narrative a wire, every appearance a spark. Together, they form the circuitry of power. When others chase goals, the unseen design mechanisms. When others chase applause, the unseen craft algorithms of attention. And once those mechanisms run on their own, the architect steps away, a ghost surrounded by machines that whisper his intent long after he's gone. That's legacy, not statues or speeches, systems, not followers but frameworks, not wealth that fades, but influence that regenerates. The world mistakes silence for absence, but silence is only absence to the noisy. To the powerful, it's space, breathing room for design, the void in which empires are planned. Machiavelli would remind you, never stand where they can strike you, never speak where they can define you. Because the moment you are understood, you are confined. The moment they can read you, they can predict you. And prediction is the foundation of control. To build an empire of the unseen is to become unreadable, to communicate through consequence, not confession, to let the world guess your motives and exhaust itself in interpretation. Because confusion, properly directed, is the highest form of protection. This is why the true elite no longer seek to be followed. They seek to be inevitable. They don't want fame. They want architecture. Their names are irrelevant. Their systems immortal. And that's the final law of power in the game of appearances. Visibility is vanity. Invisibility is victory. The richest man is not the one who owns the most. It's the one whose influence flows without name, whose empire breathes without presence, whose design lives in silence. That's how Machiavelli would build his fortune today. Not as a brand, not as a face, but as a pattern, a quiet frequency beneath the noise of the world. He would exist everywhere, yet nowhere. He would be quoted, copied, studied, yet unseen. He would not rule people. He would rule perception, and perception, once mastered, would rule everything else. You've seen how the world truly works. You've seen how appearances build empires, how silence commands loyalty, and how the ones who seem invisible move everything. Most will forget this. They'll return to the noise, to the chase for attention, applause, validation. They'll keep believing the mirror is real, but not you. If you've made it here, it means something inside you refuses illusion. It means you've stopped performing and started perceiving. The powerful don't compete for attention. They design it. They don't shout. They signal. They don't chase the light. They control the shadow that shapes it. And now you see it too. So stay here. in this silence between perception and power. Because this isn't a channel, it's a training ground for the unseen, a quiet rebellion against the noise that owns most minds. Every week we study what others fear to admit, how influence is engineered, how belief becomes currency, and how the modern Machiavelli designs his own inevitability. Subscribe, not for content but for consciousness, because once you see the illusion, you can never unsee it. And when the curtain falls, you'll already be standing behind it.